attacks ramping up along Israel's northern border after the IDF launches an airstrike in Lebanon, killing Hezbollah's most senior military commander. The militant group responding by firing a barrage of rockets into northern Israel. The escalation fueling concerns about a wider war, and the girlfriend of one of those rescued hostages describing the moment soldiers in disguise found her man.
IDF that came with the costume of a woman. Yeah, the soldiers were with like a costume of a woman, and he like looked at him, and they're like, Andre, we love you. This is IDF. This is the soldiers. We love you. Come with us.
Wow. And Secretary of State Antony Blinken is also in the Middle East right now, expressing frustration today with Hamas's response to the latest ceasefire proposal. Foreign correspondent Tom Soufi-Burridge has more for us near the Lebanon border. Tom.
Yeah, Kira, we're just a few miles back from Israel's border with Lebanon, just beyond those hills there. And in the distance, you can see smoke right across the landscape coming from fires caused when that massive barrage of rockets was fired in. The IDF telling us now that Hezbollah, that Iranian-backed group based in Lebanon, fired more than 200 rockets today in a matter of hours into northern Israel. And the IDF also saying yesterday they fired more than 100 rockets. Now, Hezbollah says they are retaliating for the assassination of a top commander from Hezbollah in southern Lebanon in an Israeli airstrike. And all of this tension ramping up in the north here, just as the ceasefire talks in Gaza reach a critical point. We now have Hamas's response to that US-backed ceasefire proposal. Hamas coming up with amendments, according to US officials. Hamas saying it wants firmer guarantees for a definitive end to the war, that this proposal would lead to that. And also it wants in that proposal a commitment that all Israeli troops will withdraw from the entire Gaza Strip at some point. Now, an Israeli official is accusing Hamas of rejecting the outline of the proposal. We're hearing from Secretary of State Blinken in Doha, in Qatar, for key talks on this issue, saying that some of Hamas's amendments, in his words, are workable, some are not. We're not seeing yet concrete progress in those talks. But coming back to the north here, Kira, this ramping up of tension is linked to the situation in Gaza because Hezbollah, that group which the US considers to be a terrorist group based in southern Lebanon, is saying that it will continue its attacks here in this part of northern Israel if the war in Gaza continues. Kira?
All right, Tom, appreciate it. National security and defense analyst Mick Mulroy also joining in on the conversation now. Mick, this isn't the first time Israel and Hezbollah have been on the brink of war. How concerned are you right now that this actually could escalate into a full-blown conflict this time around?
So, Kira, very. If you listen to the words coming out of a lot of the senior leadership in Israel, they are indicating that this is essentially going to happen. And as we see these continuous strikes, of course, Israel is trying to mitigate the command and control that would be, of course, in charge of Hezbollah. If this were to turn into a ground conflict, it could easily do so. And if it does, it's going to dwarf the conflict that's currently going on in Gaza. Hezbollah has much more military capacity than Hamas. They have up to 150,000 rockets and missiles that they can rain down on Israel with, and they simply don't have the capacity to stop all that, even with the Iron Dome, which is a very capable system. So if this kicks off, it's going to be a ground conflict. It's probably going to take the IDF a lot of force, and they're going to try to push them back behind the Litani River, which is where, under the UN Security Resolution, they should be right now. But the only way to get the Israelis that are displaced right now back into their houses is to do that, according to the Israelis. So hopefully this doesn't happen. It would not be good for either country or certainly the region, but it is going in that direction.
So Hamas has responded to the latest ceasefire proposal, but there's still no deal. So what has to happen, Mick, at this point, just for the two sides to reach some type of agreement here?
So Hamas basically said they accepted it, and then they started talking about the details needing to be negotiated, which is essentially a rejection. I think the only way this moves forward, since that is not going to happen, is if the IDF puts serious pressure on the Hamas leadership in Gaza to the point where they think they're either going to be captured or killed. Then, of course, they will come up with anything to stop the fighting. So Israel's going to keep pushing forward, and that might be the only thing that breaks this impasse, because it's clear Hamas won't accept anything other than a complete and total permanent ceasefire, and Israel won't do that until they dismantled Hamas militarily.
So President Biden is issuing new sanctions now on Russia in the war in Ukraine as Vladimir Putin responds by moving a Russian naval ship into Havana Harbor, just a couple hundred miles away from the U.S. How significant do you think this is, just in light of dealing with everything with the Middle East? Now there's this issue at hand.
So, Kara, it's certainly a throwback to the Cold War, and it's mostly a show of force with this nuclear submarine and around 4 escort vessels, including a frigate that is their most advanced weapon, or ship that they have. I think it's just that. It's a show of force. It's trying to kind of spook the United States with our citizens reporting seeing this armada going down the coast. But ultimately, it's going to be just that, I think. The U.S. is fully capable of defending ourselves against the Russian Navy, and it'll just be a show that ultimately doesn't lead anywhere. But it is intended to send a message to the United States.
Mick Mulroy, great having you. Thank you so much.